Welcome to the CDG BizCast. I'm your host, Christian Gonzalez, co-owner of Creativity Design Group, a digital marketing firm in Houston, Texas. Today, we are going to be talking about some great methods on how to handle angry customers. Throughout your life as a business owner, you will come across a customer who is less than satisfied, but you might not exactly know what to do when it comes to trying to resolve their issue. You might jump to an impulse reaction that could damage the image of your company and ultimately cause you to be fired if you work for somebody in a customer service department. So it's important to make sure that you know how to handle angry customers the right way. And today I have brought on a customer service expert who has worked in customer service for quite a long time, and I've worked alongside him in years past, and I am glad to have him on the show today to talk about this topic. Please welcome Mr. Allen. Thank you for joining me on CDG BizCast today.
Thank you, Christian, very, very much.
So please tell everybody about yourself and your background and your expertise in customer service.
Well, I started out with a company that created the customized promotional products. I mean, they basically, that's how they started, customizing promotional products. And I started out as a salesman on the phone, basically. And then as time went on, they added to our job responsibility customer service. And I've been doing customer service for about a good 10 years or so. And so I just feel that my background plus the way I feel about it, which is that it's very, very important, especially for companies that want to keep their customers. And so I think that, whatever that can be possibly done to do that, especially with repeat customers, that's probably the most important thing to keep that customer base healthy.
That's correct, because once you have one happy customer, they'll continue to refer your business to other people. They will share their experience with the world. They'll leave reviews. And of course, most importantly, happy customers give repeat business.
That is true. And so with, the happy customers, they come back and they recommend you to other businesses. You feel like you have a responsibility there, and you want to have them contact you. And that way, you can have a pulse on doing well with the customer, providing them with the best customer service possible.
That's correct. And working in customer service means that you have to have the ability to be a very important point of contact, because when people call because they have an issue, you're the person that they're talking to. You are the face of the company at that point. So it's important to make sure that you are providing a 5-star experience to the customer. So with that being said, what methods do you use to ensure that you provide a 5-star customer service experience during any customer interaction?
Okay, well, in the world of customized products, whether it be promotional products or other types of customized products, the absolute first thing is to ask the customer when the order is needed to be in the customer's hand. Now, if the turnaround time is too long, then the customer would have a chance at that point in time, when it's the first thing, to go to plan B, whether it be with us or somebody else, or if they decide, well, we just don't have the time to do it, and just kind of do an abort or an about face and try to do something else.
Yes, that's true, because some customers do have certain deadlines that they need to meet, and every now and then, and I can speak for myself on this too, you'll get a customer who has a very unrealistic deadline, and in the case that you get a customer who just has this deadline that cannot be met, would you say their plan B, like you've mentioned here, usually results in them continuing business with your company, or do they just end up going somewhere else? What's usually the most common case?
Generally speaking, if you can come up with a really good plan B, where they can have at least some type of a product that would, especially for an event on a timely basis, then they'll have a tendency to come back to you. I think it's important to do that plan B. However, if it gets to the point where there's just not enough time, or perhaps the products or the raw materials are not available, especially in the case of with COVID, if there were products that are coming overseas and they're just not getting into the country, then that's another thing. And so we've been challenged with COVID quite a bit, just like any other business has. And so you have to decide what you're going to do, but hopefully you have enough time to go to that plan B, or just we just didn't have enough time to do it.
A company should always have a plan B, just as the customer always does. The customer already knows what they're going to do if your company is not able to provide their products that they need on time. And I did read Tillman Fertitta's book, Shut Up and Listen, and he talks about this specific issue in the book. In fact, we did a whole book review about this for episode 1 of BizCast, and what he recommends doing is, when you get a customer who needs a specific item and maybe it's sold out, or being that he's in the restaurant business, it's already past time to serve it, such as a breakfast item, you're already past the cutoff time for breakfast and you have to serve lunch and dinner now, you find the customer an alternative product that they will take in place of what they originally requested, if it's appropriate. Many times companies will do this, and in this case, you're simply telling the customer that breakfast is over, but we have a lot of items on our lunch menu that you might be interested in having, and the customer wants to eat, right?
That's correct. So that may work. And so, you have to kind of try. Of course, there may be places where they may just say, well, he's a good customer, and even though it's 12:30 in the afternoon, we'll still go ahead and make him some breakfast. And of course, there's always places that make breakfast 24 hours a day. And certainly, I think at McDonald's, perhaps they still do this. They will make breakfast pretty much at any time. Perhaps those are participating locations or whatever. But yeah, I mean, if you can cater to the customer as best you can, that's the main goal, to where they'll stay with you.
Correct, yes. And just to speak about what you said about McDonald's, most locations do not serve breakfast 24/7, but I do know that restaurants like Jack in the Box, IHOP, and Denny's serve breakfast 24/7, and they're just keeping all their customer bases in mind, just in case somebody wants to have fried eggs for dinner.
Yes, and the thing is that with places like Denny's and certainly IHOP, they know that they can get breakfast at any time, and so it's not for their customer base, it's a given. Some other places, well, it's kind of iffy, but whatever kind of works for everybody, whether it be the customer or the company itself, you just have to kind of go with it and see if there's a benefit there for both the customer and the company.
Right. In my case with CDG, every now and then we will get customers who tell us that the 5-page website is too costly for their budget. So what do we do with that case? We offer them one of our smaller packages that don't include as many web pages, but they can still get a website that will give them their online presence that they're seeking. We have a starter package. We have a few starter packages. We have a deluxe package, and they're all below $400. So these are our plan Bs for customers who cannot afford the full package that we offer. And we were starting to notice that we were losing customers because in previous years we did not offer these packages. So we started offering them this year to help make sure that we cover our bases for customers of different budgets.
Sounds good.
My next question for you is, since we're on the topic of handling angry customers, please tell me about 1 or 2 incidents that occurred where you had to handle angry customers, and how did you resolve their issues?
One that sticks in my mind, and I'll say it to you briefly, a customer had received an order late from us, despite the company using the right rush shipping. Even though the company's carrier was responsible, the company refunded the rush portion of the purchase back to the customer. The customers looked like you were ready to give a poor review online, and our goal was to prevent this bad business as termed by the customer. There's nothing you can do but to see if you can do something like that, to where you are responsive to the customer customer, even though it's somebody else's fault. And every once in a while, you're going to have something that, you did everything correct, but someone else outside of the company dropped the ball, and you have to kind of make up for it. And so it's just that the customer message was received loud and clear, and we can emphasize loud on that one. So anyway, that's one of them that sticks. I mean, there's a lot of other ones that I've dealt with, but that one is probably the one that comes to mind. And so anyway, the main thing is to perhaps address the customer and be responsive in that way, where you're giving them something at least.
That's quite unfortunate that happen, and sometimes you're right that these things do happen. Companies have to subcontract certain aspects of business, and in this case, it's the shipping, the carrier. So when something like that happens, even if the third-party vendor drops the ball, it still falls. The company itself still bears the burden due to them providing the service on behalf of the vendor, and then the customer just sees it all as occurring under the company's umbrella, I'm sad to say. And I actually had a similar incident 5 years ago as well, and I told you about this, and you might remember it. I had a client who was getting their website built, and they needed some photos of their product. So I sent my contract photographer out there to go and take the pictures. She already paid for the work. So he did not get out of bed that day. He slept in. And when I went to his house to go pick him up because I was his ride out to the job site, he did not go. His mom came to the door and made the excuse that he was studying for a final, and I didn't even know he was in college. I think he was just saying that because he didn't want to go. So needless to say, I get an angry phone call from the client, and it doesn't end there. Now I'm trying to refund her the money like I rightfully should because she did not receive the service. So here's the thing. I email her later telling her that I'm ready to give you your refund. I just need your Zelle ID so I can send it back to you. She did not respond. I waited for her response. Then before I could even call her to follow up, guess what she did? She came to my office unannounced, uninvited, and started raising a stink with the neighboring business in that office that had nothing to do with us to begin with, and disrupted their operations. And it was just really, really ugly. And first I had to apologize to the neighboring business that she came in there and disrupted their operations because they had nothing to do with her issue. And eventually I was finally able to get her on the phone, and she came back in. We wrote her a check for her refund, and then we never heard from her again. But it's just unfortunate that customers, when they get angry, they feel entitled to trespass onto the property like that. Our office is private. We never allowed visitors on the property without permission because we don't want the neighboring business to get disrupted. She just disregarded all that, stormed in one day when I wasn't there and caused trouble. And I spoke with the owners of that business. I told them if she ever comes back in here again causing trouble, we're going to have her trespassed, banned from the property, and if she were to ever return to our property again, we'll have her arrested because that was just uncalled for.
Yeah, the thing about customer service is that it can go to that level where that's all they think about. Perhaps there was something in their life that really was making their life miserable, and they're just projecting that onto you. And then I've had that happen too. And so yes, it's bad, but you still have to do the best you can, and within certain boundaries. Now, if they start to get a little too aggressive, then you have to think about, well, I may have to contact law enforcement to kind of avoid having anything just get out of hand. And then in this day of age in our society, then that's always a possibility.
Right. Sad but true. And in my case, I was trying my best to rectify the situation, and it's on her if she doesn't answer my calls or emails when I'm trying to give her refund back.
Yes. So anyway, I just feel like it's really important. I know you did the best you could to get her to contact you, and so I've had difficulty contacting people because one is that you call them up, they may not pick up the phone. But what has really helped, and I'm kind of glad that I can talk to you about this, is that I've had a little bit more success texting their cell phone, and that seems like that works. And of course, there's also email and such. And so, but it just seemed like texting was a good way once I've established contact with them especially through the phone. And so it really helps to, and hopefully that will give other people an idea that perhaps we can text their cell number as another means of contact, and then that way you can respond better. And that's what I found is that it was a better rate of them contacting you back.
Right. Some people just don't have the time to answer the phone, but they'll take the time to answer to a text message. And this also brings up my next question. What should anyone who is handling customers never do when the customer is upset? So when you're talking to an angry customer, what should you, the customer service agent, avoid doing to make the situation worse or to make sure that things remain professional?
Okay, well, this is all psychology, and so the customer is upset, and so the first thing to keep in mind for yourself when you're dealing with a customer that is really flying off the handle, so to speak, is you have to avoid mirroring the customer's upset disposition and just relax. The thing about the customer, or anybody for that matter, when they're angry, that does take a lot of energy, and the chance that the customer will eventually calm down is pretty good. And so the calming down process, however, may take some time to do that. And so it's kind of like, well, what can I do? It just takes time, and sometimes time is what is needed in this case. And slow down, don't talk too fast, that sort of thing. And so I think that if you can do that, that's going to help a good number of the cases.
I agree. It's important to make sure, like you said, avoid mirroring, which means never stooping down to their level and doing what they're doing, because that just makes you just as bad as them. You want to make sure that all interactions remain professional, even when the customer is not.
Yes, I mean, certainly there is the tendency to want to do that, and so, but it's just something that comes with practice. Now, does that work for everybody? Well, no, but it works for a variety. I mean, just a good number of people, and so, this is not a perfect science by any means, but you just got to keep on trying, and just have to kind of think of ways to slow down the process.
Right. One thing, it's important to remember that when you're working customer service, you never want to take the customer's anger personally, because they're mad because your company dropped the ball. They're not mad at you directly, but they will view you as being part of the problem because you work for the company. And it's important to remember that person doesn't know you. You never want to take it personally, and always feel reassured that you will do something to help them out. You never tell a customer when they're angry, if they have a unique problem that you can't fix, you never tell them, I don't know what to do, or I can't help you. In that case, you escalate it to the next level.
That's correct. However, if you're the one that everybody's escalating to, and I was the person, these calls were being escalated to, and would have liked to had somebody to escalate it to? You betcha. But anyway, I had to handle those type of calls when they're escalated. They're basically escalated calls, and so it was just something that I had to do. Now, did I get into trouble with my supervisor? A couple of times I did, but the thing is, the main thing was that I just try to do best. And so you will get maybe a couple of customers that will try to make it personal with you. They'll try to get you fired, and I've had that, and so that's where I've kind of gotten in trouble. They want to throw you under the bus, but that's part of the game, and especially if the supervisor can have a recording of what transpired. I mean, there were times when I was telling them I was trying to be assertive, and so it's just that they could have had my back a little bit better than what they did, but it just comes with the territory.
Yeah, it's very sad that at some point, maybe it is possible, and I'm just speculating here, maybe you had a supervisor who themselves had unrealistic expectations, so as a result, he or she got upset with you. That's always a possibility as well. And my next question for you is, when interactions with an angry customer starts to get extreme, what do you do to ensure that the interaction ends without incident? So let me explain what I mean by extreme. This means that they are yelling, they're making threats towards you, like you said, like getting fired. Maybe they're even making death threats or something you need to contact law enforcement about. What do you do in those cases?
Well, I mean, the thing is that you don't want to ignore something like that where they're threatening you, but you have to kind of feel them out, for one thing. And the thing is that they're going to be angry and that sort of thing. And so I think the main thing is to like I said earlier, that you want to avoid having the same type of or similar disposition as a customer. You want to relax. And I think what really helps is that I've told people, they're asking if you're the supervisor, and I tell them I'm not the supervisor, but I've been here for a good long time, like 8 or 9 years, and that will help sometimes they'll say, I don't care how long you've been with your company, and they still be angry, but you still try to work with them. And I think what's really helped me, and hopefully that will help you as well in discourse with an angry customer, is to develop multiple options that would be acceptable for the company. An example would be an order with a very large quantity of product that needs to be delivered in a rush. So let's say if they need 10,000 units and they need it in a week's time or in a couple of days' time. And so what you could perhaps do is, could we split up the quantity, that very large quantity, split it up over 2 days and ship out one of them using like a 2-day rush, and you get shipped out so it arrives on, let's say, Thursday or Friday, and then the next one ship it out doing an overnight. That way they get there at the same time, even though they're in 2 separate packages because they're shipping separately, but both of them get it at the same time. Then they have it when they do need to have it. It's just that sometimes a customer may order as a rush a very large quantity of product, and the capacity of the company that's customizing the product is only so much, and so you try to maybe spread it out, and so you have to kind of use strategy like that to get that done if they really need to have it like Thursday and at the very latest Friday.
I've always liked the use of strategy. That's always a great way to help get a job done, especially one that's very complex or has strict demands. And when you have a customer who is angry and they need it right then and there, that's a great way to get them the product. If they can't get it all at once, just ship it out in phases. This will help make sure that they get some of it, because it's better that they have some than none when they need it by a certain date.
Yes. Now, let's say if it's for an event, then you'd like to have it getting there on a particular date. They say at the very latest Friday, if maybe it's a weekend event like Saturday and Sunday, for example, then that's great. Then you're using, let's say, if you can do half on one day and half on the next day, and then the first day you use a 2-day ship, and the next day you're using overnight, then that does work. Of course, that's if you're rushing things, that means it's costing more, but if they really need to have it and that is no object, the cost is not the object there. Because, to make a long story short, we recommend to our customers that give us plenty of lead time. So if you need a particular product for an event, at least get it done at least a month ahead of time, because these products do have lead times. And so if you get it there a month before you need it, then that's great. A week before you need it, that's starting to cut it close. And then if it's like you need it in a couple of days, that's just-in-time deliveries. And the thing is, with just-in-time deliveries, you can miss the mark. Then it's messed up for both the company and the customer itself. So that's the reason. The number one thing is, first thing right off the bat, ask them when you need to have it in hand. And so that's probably the most important thing. And then let's say if their color is not in, then perhaps they can get a different color, or perhaps they can go with a different size using the color that they need. And kind of like stadium cups, for example, they come in a variety of different sizes. So if they don't have the 16 ounce, then perhaps they'll go with a 20 ounce, and because you have that in green, whereas the 16 ounce you don't have it in green. And a lot of times these things cost about the same, even though they're different sizes. Not all the time, but with stadium cups, it seems like when you're customizing them and you get them in, they do cost about the same. But anyway.
My next question for you is, in the event that a solution cannot be found for the customer's specific issue, what do you do to ensure that the interaction concludes in a positive manner regardless? Because you know your job very well, and you know the importance of making sure that anytime you conclude an interaction with a customer, you want to make sure they are not left hanging, that they have some sort of solution in hand, or some solution has already been made before you hang up the phone with them or disconnect with them in any way.
Yes, that's very important. And so hopefully, let's say if the order has yet to go into production, and it could be that the situation is that, we just ran out of the product that they're looking for, the customized product, let's say like stadium cups. And so, we're trying to, they need it in a particular color, and they need it in a particular size, and we don't have that particular color in that particular size. And so, hopefully, as I was saying, if the order has yet to go into production, perhaps it could be canceled with a full refund. That would be the ideal situation when things go bonkers or awry, if you will. However, what they may do is that they may still get the stadium cups, whether it be from us or somebody else, that's not customized. It's just that perhaps they just ran out of time. And so I think the most important thing to say about all these questions is that it's very, very important that the company qualify the customers which best fit their business model. Really, really important. So if you have a customer base that, like rush orders, then, you have to be in contact with them, or you can run into problems about, the product getting there on time. Now, by the same token, the customers have a similar responsibility to everybody, to themselves and the company, is to choose their best vendor. What vendor works for them? And so, because they have their specific needs, and each company has their specific business model. And so the way I look at it, when you have companies that are kind of doing the same thing, like customized promotional products, instead of them being tough competitors against each other, it's more like that they all come together and complement each other, to where if one company can't do a particular or handle a particular customer's project, then perhaps another one can do that. So I think it's really important to keep that in mind, that we're really not super competitive against each other. It's just that we can complement each other, and that's the way I've looked at it. And that's the way I've always looked at it, going through customer service, because customers will have their favorite vendor to go to, or you may have customers that will try them all out, just to perhaps find that. And so it's all part of the process of business.
Very well said. The customer has that duty to do their due diligence and research every company that they plan on buying from, or maybe they're shopping around trying to get the best price for whatever product they're trying to buy. It's important, for one thing, to compare prices, but also, I would say this is even more important, look at the reviews for each company. Which companies have a lot of one-star reviews? Those are the ones you want to shy away from.
Yes, because it kind of relates to their capacity and getting things done on time and correctly. The thing is that with customized promotional products, of course, with customized products in general, they are basically, there's a lot of details that go in that the customer has to input to the company that's going to be doing the customization. And if one little thing is wrong, then the whole thing is wrong. And so that's another thing to keep in mind, that we got to make sure that all the details are satisfactory, at least before things proceed, because it just takes one little thing, like one little misspelling. And I've had to go through a lot of misspellings, and I've dealt with the graphic designers, and they're good spellers too, and for the most part. And so we need to make sure that everything's spelled correctly. And some people it doesn't make any difference, but there's some people it does make a difference. So there's a lot of different examples when it comes to customer service, and to avoid the anger that may come from something being off or messed up on the product.
That's right. Attention to detail is very important, no matter what you're making.
I totally agree, Christian. Certainly, without a doubt, that the details are the most important thing, and they all have to be looked at and made sure that they are indeed correct.
In general, your entire interaction with a customer always needs to be a positive journey, no matter what the case is, even when they're angry. I've always believed that you need to work overtime until they are happy. You never just leave them hanging without a solution. Always follow up with them, ask appropriate questions, because you know when they need something based on what they tell you. When you ask them for feedback, follow up on that feedback regularly, and make sure that if you don't hear from them, continue to follow up, because the last thing you want is a customer who was angry that the solution was never applied, but yet you still needed to do some additional fact-finding in order to get to a solution, but they never responded to your calls or your emails. So that puts the situation in a bind. You want to help a customer. They have a very unique situation. You're trying to call them, you're trying to email them, you're trying to text them because you have more questions you need to answer before you can proceed with your journey to find a solution, and then they don't answer the phone or any other channels of communication. And then it doesn't seem fair that they come back angry when they actually do call you, that there's no solution.
Yes, that's correct, because the thing is that you're part of their team, and you want to make sure that they have a winning presentation. And so it's always good to take that approach, that yes, you are part of their team. And I've thanked people for an event, whether it be like for a wedding or whatever, and I tell them, thank you very much for making me a part of your event. And that makes me feel good, and hopefully makes them feel good as well, that there are people that are helping them with their event, certainly like a wedding reception. So anyway, very good pointers indeed there.
I would like to conclude this episode by making this important statement to all business owners who are listening. When you are handling customers directly yourself, and maybe you're a small business and you don't don't have a customer service team or anybody to handle customer service on your behalf, take all this advice that Alan has given to heart, and always remember to have an active listening ear. When a customer is speaking, listen to everything that they are saying, especially if they are angry, or even if they're not angry. Maybe they're just telling you what they need or what their concerns are. Listen very carefully to what they are telling you. Write them down, take note, remember what their biggest concerns are, remember why they're upset, and be ready to find solutions ahead of time. If you can find solutions ahead of time to these problems, that's what you'll want to do. You'll want to do your research, especially if it's a common problem. Maybe you sell a product that has a certain defect that many customers are calling you daily about. Maybe there's something in your customer service that seems to be an ongoing problem, and you see it occurring quite often with different customers. These are things that you'll want to take some time to research before the next call comes in, because chances are somebody's going to be calling in with the exact same issue. And many websites have what they call a knowledge base section to address these common needs to help customers find the solutions without them having to call in, because the less calls you have from customers for common problems that they can solve themselves by reading your website through your self-help articles saves more time for your customer service team to take calls for customers who have very unique problems that a knowledge base article cannot answer. And also, before we close out, Alan, do you have any final statements you would like to make?
Yes, I would like to make one statement, is that, it's really important for all the things, is that the way we need to look at customer service is that it's an opportunity to, certainly help the customer, but perhaps turn a new customer into a repeat customer. And so that's always something that we can keep in our minds, and saying that's the reason why I do customer service, to try to provide the best customer service that I can, is to turn perhaps like a new customer that's not used to things the way things are done, and used to putting in all the details, to help them out to the point where they become that repeat customer, and that's the goal. And so, you have to have more and more repeat customers, because at some point in time, you will unfortunately have people that will leave your customer base. You'll have customers that leave the base, and you have to rebuild that up. And certainly if the customer base keeps on growing, that's not too bad of a thing. I mean, hopefully it's more money in your pocket. So anyway, that's a concern I have with customer service, is that we got to take care of the customer. And I feel like if the customer is taken care of, then it makes everything else run pretty smooth.
I agree. It's always important to remember that it's always more cost effective to have repeat customers and their referrals than it is to try to obtain new customers by having to spend more money on marketing. And always bring your A game when working customer service, and always aim to give your customer a 5-star experience, or even better than 5-star experience. Thank you very much for being on the show today, Alan. All of the advice that you shared was great, and I certainly don't see any reason why you should ever be fired from any customer service job, because you know your stuff, you know how to handle customers very well, and all this advice that you've shared today on this episode will greatly benefit all of our listeners who are focused on serving their customers, especially in the small business community who follows us.
You're welcome, and hopefully it will help them, and I'll be glad to do what I can to help them. Thank you, sir.
And thank you for being on the show once again. You've heard it from the expert, everybody. Thank you for listening to the CDG BizCast. I hope y'all have a great day.